going to be using the product that's called Just Egg. This Just Egg product is something we discovered a little while back. It is made with mung bean. That's the primary ingredient, water first, and then of course the mung bean. And this is, if you're a plant-based eater and you're kind of new to the diet, you may have a hard time getting rid of eggs or giving up eggs. And so we've tried some of the powder, we've tried tofu versions and the tofu scrambles and all that good stuff. But this product is probably the closest thing that I have found to eggs available. Now, I don't really like it made like scrambled eggs. I think it's okay. But if you're trying to compare this scrambled egg to what you were used to previously with scrambled eggs, you'll say, that doesn't taste the same. Because just alone, salt and pepper, you can taste a difference between the two. It's not much, but it's enough to make you realize that you're not really eating eggs. The texture is on spot on. I mean, it really is. But I make this in an omelet. And when I make this in an omelet, it is every bit egg. I mean, I make an omelet. I'll show you what it looks like shortly. But today I'm going to make an omelet, and I'm going to use Just Egg. These run anywhere on sale from like $3.99 to $5.99, depending on where you buy it. And one jar, this particular bottle is 12 ounces, 12 fluid ounces, and this particular bottle will make 3 omelets. So three decent size omelets. It's pretty good. Occasionally I'll make big omelets and I get a couple, but you can get 3 omelets out of this. Today my omelet, I'm gonna chop up a little onion. I'm gonna actually put in some mushrooms. My wife will tell you that she does not like these because they have no nutritional value, is her opinion, but I personally like these kind of onions. I'm gonna use some vegan shredded cheddar cheese. It's non-dairy. I say vegan, it's plant-based. I gotta change my language. I'm gonna chop up a little bit of tomato. I'm gonna use a little bit of green pepper, which I have previously chopped. And I happen to have this roast. This roast is a plant-based roast. You can buy it in the plant-based section at Kroger, Publix, Whole Foods. A lot of places will have this, and it comes in kind of like this mini ham-looking small roast. And I previously cooked this for dinner. I'm gonna chop a little bit of this up and put that in it as well. But you can mix up anything that you like in your omelet. So with that in mind, I'm gonna get started and wait till you see what this omelet looks like, and I'm gonna tell you what it tastes like. Now, for those that don't know, I went plant-based almost 2 years ago, and I've lost 55 pounds. So to me, this is a way of life. I don't miss anything outside. There's some people that do, and they struggle with it. But for the most part, I have found very comfortable substitutes for everything that I eat. And I have some really good meals that have become my favorites that you know what I'm talking about. You'll make those consistently week over week or month over month. And we have a few like that fill those voids and we make regularly. So with that, I'll get started. Okay, so I'm set up here and you can see that I've previously chopped the green pepper and the onion. And I will get asked often, well, how much do you use? Well, I never cooked that way. I just didn't. My mom didn't cook that way. I learned to not cook that way. But I just put in what I think is okay. Now, I remember when I cook this, water kind of cooks out. It gets a little bit smaller, but I think about what I want in an omelet. So I actually start off with a low to medium heat. Start getting the pan ready. I use a non-GMO canola spray. This is available at Costco. I picked this up at Costco. It is just a plant-based spray, and this is what I use. I really like this copper pan. It's one you see advertised on TV. I have a set of pans here that are $300-400 pans, and believe it or not, this is my go-to pan, and you'll see why here shortly. But I'm going to spray this over the sink because my wife gets upset at me if the stove gets covered in the spray. So low to medium heat. Don't put this away. You'll need it again in the process, and I'll show you why in just a little bit. But with the low to medium heat, I'm going to go ahead and pre-start the green pepper and the onion and get that softened up and just cook it down just a little bit. And this will take you just a couple minutes, and we'll get this cooked down. And I will come back to you before I add the next ingredient. But before I do that, before I get away, while that's cooking, I usually take and get my other soft ingredients that I'm gonna add a little bit later in the process once this gets softer. So I'm gonna probably take about that much mushroom and about that much tomato. It's just one slice of tomato. Set that aside. And I'm just gonna chop this up. Not super duper fine, just chunk it just a little bit because it does cook down. Same thing with these mushrooms. And I'll show you these in just a second. Let me just show you how I do that without making too much of a mess. You can hear my onions starting to sizzle. And as my onions are sizzling, you'll see the volume of tomato and mushroom that I've just got kind of gotten used to. The other thing that I will tell you when I'm getting this together, you can see this is that amount of mushroom and tomato that I have. I did mention that little bit of roast. I'm going to show you this roast. It's got a little bit of like a dressing inside. It comes, you can see the webbing from where they formed this. This particular roast is a sage roast. Has a little bit of flavor in it. But I'm only going to use one little piece of this. And again, this is a roast I've previously cooked. So I'm just going to get a small piece of this. Set that aside. I'm going to chunk this up a little bit. This is actually a little bit more than I want. I'm going to use about half of that. So just a little bit of meat, about this much, I'm going to put into this and chunk it up. Put pieces together here. Onions and green pepper are sizzling up nicely. So while that's ready, let me get the mushrooms out of the way and move my steak out of the way. My little roast, I should say. It's a plant-based roast. I got the cheese ready to go in. Get my stuff stirred around here. Got a little ways to go still. Now let me share something with you. This has been previously opened. When I go to the store and I buy this Just Egg, it's usually with the eggs. It's not always, depending on the store you go to, it's not always there, but it's usually in the egg section. And it's on a shelf and they're usually stacked one wide and about 6 or 7 deep. I buy all 6 or 7. So if you go to the store and you can't find it, it's probably because I've been there. But when they run out for a long time. So it lasts for a while. This one I picked up probably a week ago. I picked up, of course, a stack of 8 or 9. I picked this up a week ago. My family loves these. Even the non-vegans in my family will eat this product. And so I make, omelets for the team. And it's best for me in an omelet. I have made scrambled egg sandwiches with it and a few other things that I really liked, and that works fine too. But here's the thing, shake it really well because it gets a little bit heavier and settles towards the bottom, so shake it really well. The other thing is, if your jar is not opened already, the process of opening this is tough. So make sure that you take the time to pre-open this, because if you're ready for your egg and you haven't pre-opened that, you can count on spending a minute trying to get that top open. I don't know if anybody from Just Egg is watching this, but if you're going to change something, I would change how tough it is to open that seal. It is very tough. Now these are soft enough for me. Because I'm still going to cook it a little bit longer after I add the rest of these ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and add these in. And when I add these in, I am going to lightly coat these, and this is where my wife gets upset at me, but I'm going to lightly coat these with a little bit of cooking spray to just add a little bit more oil to that pan now. Now that looks like a lot of ingredients, but I can assure you that this is going to cook down, and it will cook down very nicely, and I'll have a nice thick omelet, and I'll show you what I mean by that as we get further along. But let me just let that cook, and I'll be back to you shortly. Okay, and we're back. This is cooked down quite a bit, so I'm going to show you a couple of things about this. It is nice and tender now. I've got a little bit of onion, the green pepper, the mushroom, the tomato, and of course that little bit of that vegan roast, they call it. So what I do, and you can experiment with this however you like to. A lot of people have said to me, no, they don't want to do it that way. But I take these ingredients and I set them out and I set them aside. And I'll show you why. Some people say, oh, that's the best part, don't do that. But this pan, on the bottom of this pan, you can see it's coated a little bit with a little bit of the onion, the caramelized, it's kind of happened on that. Well, it works nicely with the Just Egg. It'll pick that up and it will kind of add that to the color on the outside. And I do that sometimes. Sometimes I'm lazy and I do that. But the reality is, if I really want a pretty omelet, I've got a guest or someone that I'm making an omelet for, I like this cleaned up, so I'm gonna take just a second. Give me one moment here. I'm going to cool that pan down, and I'm actually going to make that just a little bit cleaner for a second. I just wipe it out. It comes out pretty easily, but I'm just going to take just a second, wipe it off, and I'll show you why in just a minute here. And it cools the pan off, number one, and that's not the real reason I do it. The real reason I do it is because it makes my egg, the Just Egg, move around very smoothly in a pan. It's not going to stick. And so I do take it and lightly spray it again. This time I'm going to do it over the sink. But I lightly spray the pan. I get the edges too because of the way I bring it up, so I kind of spray around that pan. I'm going to get it on and start reheating that. Now at this point is where I make sure the Just Egg is shaken very, very well. Almost foams it up a little bit. And I'm going to just coat kind of a round circle in this pan. And that's about a third of this container. Maybe not quite, maybe a little less, because I still got a little bit left. It was probably here, and I think I still have them down to there. So that's the Just Egg. So I'll set that aside. Now at this point, I add a seasoning. You can add salt and pepper, whatever you'd like to add. My wife likes hers with, believe it or not, Montreal steak seasoning. So just put some seasoning in there. This particular seasoning that I'm going to use is called green chili rub. It's a rub for cooking chicken and some other things. It comes from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And my daughter sends me this. This is one of the gifts she sends me every year, and I use it all the time. This is one of my favorite seasonings. And so what I do, get it mixed up pretty good, and then I just sprinkle a little bit across. Just get a little bit of seasoning in there. You can see that is coating it kind of nicely. And you want to experiment a little bit because you may put you may do like the Montreal steak seasoning, maybe a little much, but you can do that. This brand of cheddar is available at most grocery stores. I add this cheddar and I try to put it, kind of concentrate it to one side. It's going to be kind of on the bottom of mine. I just add about that much in. I will warn you, even with this pan, with this heat, I do lower the heat down to low, by the way, when I'm doing this part. If the cheese touches the pan, that'll be a sticking point. The egg itself doesn't stick too much using the cooking spray, but the cheese will kind of bond itself to the pan. It's not a big deal. You'll just notice that when you start trying to break it loose to move it around, that cheese will stick. So keep that in mind. And that is one of the cheeses that I use. There's others that are out there, but that is just one example of that. So we're just gonna let that cook for just a second. You'll see the moisture come away. This is also where I will come in and add and see how much that cooked down to. That's about a half a cup, maybe a little more, maybe 3/4 of a cup. And there's actually probably a little more than I would put in an omelet. But we're just gonna lay it in here and see how it lays out. I'd usually try to put it to one side because that's the side I'm gonna fold over onto. So I'm just gonna add a little bit in here. And like I said, it's about 3/4 of a cup. And as I've done this, that's gonna look like a pretty full, if you can see that. Let me show you that real quick. About that much will be pretty full. But you know what? I'm not gonna stop there. I'm gonna go ahead and add my whole 3/4 of a cup that it cooked down to. That seems kind of thick, a lot of ingredients in it. You may or may not want that much in yours. I happen to want that much in mine. So it's still cooking down. My spatula from cooking earlier has got some stuff on it, and since I like a clean omelet, I'm just gonna rinse that off. And I'll show you what I mean by the clean omelet. At this point, it's probably, getting ready. It's solid, it's pretty good. It's cooked pretty good. You'll see it looks, like an omelet. I mean, it looks like like that scrambled egg that we're used to. I'm just gonna take this side of this omelet, make sure I'm cooked. I'm just gonna kind of fold that over. Now if you can see, got a little texturing on that. Looks like it's coming along, doing pretty good. Now, I let it sit a little bit. A lot of people don't like their normal eggs cooked that length of time. And so I'm gonna spray this a little bit on the outside, make this easy for me to flip. And I'll show you what I mean by that here in just a minute. But that texturing in a normal egg, I don't like the taste. On this egg, it doesn't alter the taste the way it does in a traditional egg. And so now if you see what I've done, let me put a little bit on this side so it doesn't stick where those cheese was. If you notice now what I've done is I've really kind of broken it loose from the pan. It moves around very freely inside of this copper pan. I'm just going to cook that side just a little bit longer on this side. I'm going to position it the way I like to position it to flip it. I'm going to try it the old-fashioned way. Bear with me if it works out. Get my plate ready. Come up here. Get the plate. Get a fork ready. Almost time for that bon appetit moment. Fork is ready. I'm gonna flip this over, get a little bit on the other side. Okay, this is where everybody holds their breath. Yes! How was that? There's the other side. That's what it's gonna come out looking like. And you notice it's nice and loose inside this copper pan. I really love it. Let that cook just for a minute. Again, I'm on low. And it is about ready to come off. Okay, let's plate that thing. Put there. Make sure I turn my eye off. And there we have a Just Egg omelet that tastes amazing. I'm looking forward to this. Bon appetit.